Hello and welcome back to the Restricted View podcast.
Hello everybody, hope you're all well. I'm Chris.
And I am Deborah, and as always, we're here with lots of theatre stuff.
Theatre stuff, news, reviews, tips, tricks, topics of conversation, and just seeing as many shows as we can.
Yes, this week we haven't actually seen any shows. We're hoping to see 2 shows next weekend.
Yeah, it's been a bad week.
It's been a bad week show-wise, but we are now double jabbed, so that's exciting.
Yes. Not theatre-related news, but it kind of is, because it kind of opens the doors to us in a way to be more comfortable going to more shows.
Yes, it makes us feel a little bit safer, and I'm sure all of you have one vaccine, waiting for your vaccine, or have had your 2 jabs, are also feeling a little bit safer in the world out there.
Yeah, so hoping to take full advantage of that as long as we don't get too adverse side effects. We're hoping to go and see a show this Friday and this Saturday, so it's going to be a busy weekend to make up for the rubbish last theatre week we had.
Yes, that's true. But today, we're going to finally then, because we haven't been to any new shows, we're going to finally review something that we saw a few weeks ago, and we've been saving for a great review.
We've caught up!
We got up! Woo! So we're going to talk to you about a very exciting show, but we also have a very interesting topic of discussion, and as always, as Chris said, some tips and some news.
Yeah, so without any further ado, let's get straight into our news section. So the topic of news today is a topic we've actually spoken about before. You might remember a few weeks back we talked about the fact that the Everybody's Talking About Jamie movie is going to be exclusive, or to at least temporarily, to Amazon Prime. It's coming out in September. But we've got some additional Everybody's Talking About Jamie news. It's a very long title, that.
Which is call it Jamie.
Which is a very from here on it'll be referred to as Jamie. Yep. So Jamie is doing something that I don't think I've ever known, and I don't. This is not to say it hasn't happened before, but I don't think I've ever known a show to do ever before. Which is, despite the fact that it reopened back in May, the end of May, I think, when COVID restrictions were
started being lifted in the UK.
Yeah. Despite the fact that it reopened then, it's now going to temporarily close.
Yes, so it's very strange, isn't it? It's saying everywhere we found news about this, and this is what we're talking about this now as well. It says that the show is going to pause for a while, which is an interesting choice of words in my opinion. It's meant to come back in 2022 to the West End. The show will be touring, however, in the UK, and I think in the US as well. And potentially some other, maybe Australia.
So I have a full rundown here of So the cold hard facts, so to speak, the data, is that Everybody's Talking About Jamie is closing. It's pausing, as Deborah says, on the 26th of September 2021 in the West End. It will return at an unspecified time in 2022. It is unknown, and apparently to the Apollo Theatre. The same theatre. It's unknown what's going to fill the Apollo Theatre in the meantime. The UK tour, starts on September 1st. But the tour will also pause for 6 weeks in January, whilst the show opens in Los Angeles. Then the tour will restart after those 6 weeks and run until May 2022. And there is a second UK tour already planned for 2023. Which is it's really, really odd. And there's also Japan is opening Jamie in August 2021. So that's actually really soon. That's next month. And South Korea is also opening Jamie in 2022. They're both planned and going ahead. There's also plans currently in the works for it to open in South America, Australia, Italy, Holland, and a bunch of other European countries as well. So that's the timeline, the running order, so to speak, we've been given. Why is this happening?
Yes, I mean, the show is closing on the 26th of September.
No, pausing.
I'm sorry. But the film's coming out on the 17th of September, so it's very close.
So Deborah and I were speculating, is it something to do with the contract of the movie?
Yeah, I don't know, because I couldn't find anywhere the reason for this, and especially considering how many other countries have the show lined up to open on their
Yeah, it's
stages.
clearly demand for it.
There is, yes, exactly. There's clear demand. It's a great show, and I really don't understand. I have seen, as Chris said, I've never seen something like this before either, and we have seen shows closing and then reopening. That does happen, but this is closing. This is closing on purpose.
Yeah,
It's,
and it's not
sorry,
calling
pausing.
and it's not calling it a closure. It's calling it a pause, right?
Exactly, yeah. So it's very strange. I don't really know what to think about this, but I guess the point of this and of us talking about this is if you have the opportunity, go see it before the 26th of September, because we don't know when it's coming back.
So you've got about 2.5 months. You've got plenty of time.
Yeah, but if
we know it's coming back in 2022. We just don't know specifically when it's coming back in 2022. And there is always the fear. If I was someone who really wanted to see it, everybody's talking about Jamie and hadn't seen it, I would be living in this with a certain amount of fear that it wouldn't come back after all.
Exactly, I was about to say that. So if you want to guarantee having seen it in the West End, I'm sure you'll be able to see it touring, because it's going all over the world apparently. But if you want to, if London is the closest place to you, maybe go see it before the 26th of September.
Yeah, I do wonder if it is something to the contract of the film, because the timing is suspicious, and in addition to that, the tour is pausing for 6 weeks while it runs in LA, which I don't know. That seems like it's also a contractual thing.
Yeah, it sounds like it is, doesn't it? Maybe there's some loophole in the contract that doesn't allow the music to be played in two places at the same time or something like that.
The only explanation I think is some bizarre contract. But yeah, it's as Deborah says, if you want to go see it, you need to.
And I guess,
get on with
in
it.
a way, in an odd way, in my kind of prompt sales, this pause. So I guess go get your ticket now, like sooner rather than later, because you don't know how easy it will be to get when closer to the pause.
If you didn't know, the book and lyrics are by Tom McRae, and the music's by Dan Gillespie. I can never pronounce his name. Daniel Sells, who is the lead singer of The Feeling,
Yes.
who are a soft rock. I think I'd call them soft rock.
Alt rock now?
No, they're a rock band, UK rock, English rock band who I really like actually.
Yeah, they're lovely.
I saw them. They warmed up for Aerosmith. I saw Aerosmith in Dublin as a teenager, and they warmed up for them.
Yeah.
And they play the song "Fill My Little World Right Up," and I was like, "Oh, it's those guys! I've been hearing that song everywhere." And then I got a bunch of their albums, and Deborah and I've gone to see them since. And we went to see them in London a couple of years ago. And we were lucky enough that they performed. I know he said he used to be mine. He's my boy. He's my boy. From Everyone's Talking About Jamie. With Dan accompanying the West End actress on piano. So that was very exciting. That was
Oh yeah, the actress who plays Jamie's mum on stage.
Yeah, who sings the song in the show, and we got to hear it accompanied by the.
It's a beautiful number. It's a beautiful song, and it was very nice to see them doing it live, with the band.
So if you remember the feeling from back in the day, I mean they're still going, but if you remember the feeling from your youth, then you'll probably like the music in this song, in this musical rather.
Yes, and I think one of the greatest things about Jamie is the lyrics. I love the music. I really, really love it. I think it's beautiful.
The lyrics or the music?
Both.
Oh.
I think didn't he write both?
No, Tom McRae did the lyrics.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
He just did the music.
Well, both of them are great, and if you have the opportunity to see it, go see it before the 26th of September, before it pauses. So it's time for the From the Cheap Seats section of the podcast, and today we are going to review Six.
Six what?
Six the musical.
6 musicals?
6 musicals, yes, Chris.
Okay.
Yes, Chris. Six different musicals.
Cool. Which one are we reviewing first?
We're reviewing 6 first.
6 what?
We could go on forever like this. Oh my
God. Play that goes wrong.
What goes wrong? Sorry. Okay, let's do it. Let's go back to the start. We're reviewing 6 today.
Yes.
And if you have been under a rock for the past few years...
few years?
Yes.
That's been out for a few years.
Yes, it definitely has. About, I think, 2017 or 2018.
Really?
Yeah. So, again, if you have been under a rock for the past few years and you don't know what Six is about, Six is a musical about Henry VIII's wives. And in this show, they basically take on the stage to tell their stories in a girl band sort of way. and they are competing to see which one of them has suffered the most in their lives.
And they'll be the lead singer.
Yes, they'll be the lead singer of the band. Yeah, whoever wins. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I heard of Six a few years ago. Our good friend Anna was the one who introduced me to it, and she kept insisting that I had to go see it. And I have to admit that I was a bit dubious about it at start. I wasn't quite sure if that's what I like. If I'd like it. I'd seen some clips online, and I wasn't sure if that was my type of thing. But I am a fool because it was obviously my type of thing. So as someone who grew up, was a teenager in the noughties, and loves a bit of pop, that was just exactly like it was my jam. It was playing on the lute.
Because very pop songs, isn't it?
It's very pop songs. Yes. So Six is a very it's as a friend of mine described, it is a show that girls go to, and this is teenage girls. It could just be anyone, but it's very much a gateway show, and it's a show that girls to go see as if they were going to see the Spice Girls. And I think it definitely has that Spice Girl vibe.
Yeah, it definitely has a Spice Girl vibe. That makes sense.
So Six was written by Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss, and they wrote it at Cambridge, I believe.
Yeah, whilst they were at university.
They were at university, so kudos to them to making something like this at university and making it's such a big success.
It opened the Edinburgh Fringe, I think, didn't it?
It did, yeah, and then it transferred to the Arts Theatre in the West End, and it's a very
off West End.
Off West End as well. I mean, we don't really do that. We don't have that categorization here, I don't think.
Oh, we do. We do.
We?
Yeah. The Wikipedia page says off West End.
Sure. Okay, fair enough. But still, it's a
do. The Palace Theatre is off West End, 100%.
Fair, yeah, the other Palace, you mean?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I meant, yeah.
Yes, fair enough. It's a tiny little theatre, and I am actually quite glad. I never got to see it there, but I'm actually quite glad to see it in a new, bigger theatre now.
Which theatre is it in now? I forgot the name of it.
The Lyric Theatre, isn't it?
Yes, that's the one, Lyric Theatre, which had previously had
Thriller,
thank
you.
Thriller,
Michael Jackson's Thriller,
which we never saw.
No. So we were very lucky to get rush tickets for Six, and they do exist. If you have tried and have failed, try again, fail again, and fail better.
Every day. Yeah, nice Beckett reference.
No, so what happened, and this is a tip. This is not the tip section, but this is a tip. I couldn't get the tickets at 10 a.m., but I kept checking. I kept checking back, and I actually got the tickets about 10 past 10, which is, people who are not used to Six rush tickets will say, well, this is only 10 minutes after they open. Obviously, you got them. No. If you miss them in the first few seconds, they're usually gone.
Yeah, but once in a while, someone who's holding a ticket, maybe they're calling someone saying, "Oh, we can go tonight. Are you free tonight?" And then the person's not, and they say, "Oh, okay," and they release the tickets, so they come back into the wild briefly.
This is what I assume happened because I got the tickets.
Yeah, definitely. Someone had them in their basket, and they were talking to someone. Turned out they couldn't go, so they didn't buy them.
Yes, exactly. So Six it's actually a very short show. It's about an hour and 15.
Zach was going to say and there's no interval.
There's no interval, and it feels very much like a pop gig. You're going to a concert. It doesn't really necessarily feel as much as a play or a musical.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think it doesn't really intend to be a musical and the same.
What does it intend to be? Well, this is a topic of conversation all in of itself.
It is, but I do think it intends to be a fun concert with a little bit of story. So there's a little bit of story in this. There's a thread kind of leading it along and kind of pushing it along.
Which doesn't even need though to be what it's trying to. That's the thing. I think what it's trying to be and whether or not it succeeds in what it's trying to be is kind of one of its problems.
Well, you see, but I think there's a bit. So if you listen to the soundtrack by itself, it doesn't have a lot of the gags and a lot of the jokes that you have on the stage show. Mm-hmm. So there is this difference. There's definitely a little bit more, if you will, of character development, if you want to call it that, of the queens talking to each other and making fun of each other and comparing, exchanging notes about how
there's actually no character development technically at all because it turns out retrospectively that the whole play is put on that they're putting it on to teach us a lesson.
Yes. So
technically speaking, they don't actually evolve at all.
Please don't ask. Please don't ask us when it's set. I don't know. It's set
Oh,
on
it's set in either an alternative reality or in purgatory, or it doesn't matter because
no, it doesn't.
And this isn't the first play to do this. So there's other plays which are about other historical figures just having a conversation. Like, I don't know. This is just an example. There's a play, let's say, about George Washington having a conversation with Oscar Wilde, who obviously never met and weren't even alive at the same time.
Yeah.
But that's done in film and theatre, and that's fine. It doesn't need us.
Well, some of those women didn't actually meet in real life, or even
precisely. That's what I'm saying.
Lived during the same time, because some of them were dead before the others came along.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite clever. I don't know how you feel about this. I think we kind of talked about a little
about
bit
the setting choice.
No. I think it's quite clever. So just kind of moving on from that, I think it's quite clever how it's structured. I quite enjoy that. I think they all the queens have their time to shine. And all their songs are based on pop queens, of the noughties and the 2010s. If you know your pop music, you will recognize some of the references. But I will I will tell you a little bit about the research I've done into it, because I am a nerd. So Catherine of Aragon, who is the first wife of Henry VIII. And to be honest, I love her. I think she has the best costume. I don't know if anyone's interested in my opinion about that, but I think she stands out on stage very much. Mm-hmm. She is based on Beyonce during the Lemonade era. There's a touch of J-Lo and Jennifer Hudson as well, and a bit of Shakira. There's a Latin beat to her song, which is a lot of fun, and to me almost felt like a samba. And
I incorrectly identified her as Taylor Swift.
What? Could it be?
I've got the list here, which I'm hiding from Deborah, of what I thought they were being.
Oh my god! I didn't know you had that. I'm happy you had that.
And also who the writers actually say they are. So
let's do yours first.
I have Taylor Swift / Beyonce, but Taylor Swift's in bold. So Taylor Swift was I thought Taylor Swift was primary influence and Beyonce was secondary.
So there's a bunch of people now listening to you and thinking you think Taylor Swift and Beyonce do the same type of music.
But bear in mind, I don't like either of them.
No, I know.
So
that's fine. But you've been submitted to a lot of Taylor Swift in your time.
But almost no Beyonce.
No, almost no Beyonce. That's fair enough.
I can't remember why I thought that.
So
I did.
So there's a lot of nice historical references. You can tell there's a lot of research done to write these songs. There's a lot of nods to the history of these queens. And who they were in the lyrics of their songs, even though they are not all historically accurate, which I don't think it really matters. I think it's kind of being speculative as well as just being fun. It's not just necessarily trying to be historically accurate.
Yeah.
But there's some references. For example, Catherine of Aragon is the only one who calls Henry baby because he was younger than her.
Oh, okay.
But also it gives the song a bit of a patronizing tone. Like it's kind of treating him as a child.
Yeah.
She is the most of all the 6 queens he was married to. She was known to be like the most prim and proper of the queens. Like she was always righteous, and I think a lot of Henry's reign, especially. Well, maybe
she was most prim and proper.
Yes, well, she was a Catholic till the end.
Jane Seymour's definitely portrayed as more prim and proper in the show. 100%.
Well, so maybe in comparison to Anne Boleyn.
Sure. So
I think because then it's the one that came after, right?
Yeah.
She was loyal, she considered herself to be Queen of England until the end of her life. Mm-hmm. From my little research into it.
Aragon.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Because as a Catholic she didn't recognize the divorce. Ah,
okay, sure, with you.
And her song is called No Way because there's no way he's going to divorce her in her mind, and to her he really didn't. I like the fact that she mentions how her one of the lyrics on the part of the song says daughters are so easy to forget, because let's not forget that Henry did have an heir with his first wife, but he divorces her to get a male heir. It's just that's
Mary, I assume, is it was born to.
Mary, yes, Bloody Mary. So the next queen is the Boleyn girl. It's Anne Boleyn.
I didn't identify who this was. I didn't have a guess for who this was.
Okay, you didn't. So if you had to guess, you know now who it is.
No, I know now who it is.
Yes, okay. So she was inspired by Lily Allen and Miley Cyrus, and Anne Boleyn always wears paste buns, which is also kind of a nod to Miley Cyrus, and apparently also Avril Lavigne, which I can kind of see.
Oh, is she Miley Cyrus as well as Lily Allen?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Do you see Miley Cyrus? Yes.
I might have I might have guessed that, actually, now I think about it.
Okay.
I can see that anyway.
Yeah. She's portrayed as very immature and kind of flirty, and she is clearly she much like there's a stark contrast between her and Catherine of Aragon.
She has some very funny lines as well.
She has some hilarious lines, and the fact that she, obviously it's not a spoiler, she was beheaded, and the fact that she was beheaded comes into it quite a lot, because she won't let that go, which is fair enough.
It's kind of her trump card.
It is in fairness. But I mean, we laughed a lot with her. I think she has some great lines as well. Her song makes reference to her sleeves being green, which is the song that Henry VIII is allegedly wrote for her.
Yeah.
Green sleeves.
Yes, and actually Green Sleeves is a techno version of Green Sleeves actually used a couple of times throughout the show, during the main song 6.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And again at the end, which I quite liked. I quite liked that
little nod to it. Yes.
Yeah.
And then we have Jane Seymour, who died. And who do you think she was?
This was easy. It was clearly. I know I'm right. I'm right. I knew it was Adele.
Adele. It's very kind of like power ballad.
Because I've heard enough Adele.
Yes. And I like and also Rihanna apparently is cited as an inspiration in Celine Dion as well. And I like the fact that she is aware, and she seems to be aware of this in the song, and that's a very interesting point to make. That she says, had she survived her, because she dies a few, I think a couple of weeks after she gives birth.
It's basically as a result of childbirth.
Yeah, it was birth complications. Yes. Yeah. So she kind of she wonders, would she have been would she be divorced or also maybe beheaded had she survived?
Well, she gave him a son, didn't she?
Yes, but apparently Henry was very possessive.
She'd have been popular.
She might have been. For how long, though?
Well, true. But I actually thought that his power ballad was very out of place.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I didn't. Yeah. It doesn't sit well, in my opinion, after the two
super fun numbers,
absolute by the numbers pop songs, and then it's immediately followed up by another by the numbers pop song.
I have to admit that that's the one I usually skip when I'm listening to it.
So there you go. You obviously on some level agree that it doesn't. But I mean, I'm saying I don't think it fits. You're saying it's your least favorite song, I guess.
Yeah, it's just. But in a way, I'm also saying it doesn't fit, because if I'm going to listen to the Six soundtrack, I want to have something fun and upbeat.
Yeah, her character kind of is annoying because she kind of brings the mood down constantly, and also she's really irritating because she's like her lyrics, her opening lyrics, like Jane Seymour, the only one he truly loved. I'm like, we are trying to have a competition of who suffered the most, and you're saying
that you are actually loved by your husband.
You loved your husband and died of natural causes, and you're still gonna. And she tries to moan about that, and then sings this out, and then in order to moan about it, sings this out of place ballad that kind of grinds the pace of the musical to a halt. So yeah, I don't like her.
In a way, I guess. Why she had it tough because women were so susceptible to death from childbirth or after childbirth.
Even if you were royal.
Even it doesn't matter, right? But she didn't really necessarily have a difficult time because she was married to Henry VIII, which I think the others did. She had a difficult time because she was a woman. In the time, that was just very hard to be a woman.
She didn't suffer the most.
She actually is the only one of the six who had a queen's funeral.
Ah, there you go. See, even in death, she was treated well. It's funny though, because Adele is probably my favorite of all the inspirations.
I love Adele,
and yet I didn't like the song based on her.
Yes.
So,
the next one is Anne of Cleves, who has, in my humble opinion, the best song in this show.
She's the one that makes my Tinder, isn't it?
She does, yeah. So
what's the name of her song?
Her song is oh my god, it's Get Down.
Oh yes,
I had a moment. Get Down. But because Anne of Cleves. So all of the queens have an introduction. So they talk about themselves before their number, and Anne of Cleves doesn't really talk about herself. But we do have a song before her actual song, which is House of Holbein.
How's Holbein?
Because Holbein, the painter, he's the
I remember turning to Deborah going, "What, Hans Holbein, as in the ambassadors? He painted that thing about the famous picture of Anne of Cleves?
He did.
I never knew that.
So you see, you go to 6 and you learn things. That's why
I like Holbein.
That's why I say all my knowledge comes from musical theatre, because it is true.
Absolutely.
And Anne of Cleves, so you have the House of Holbein, which is such a fun number.
Yeah, that's a good number.
And it kind of
German techno pop.
Yeah, and it makes fun of not makes fun, but it kind of critiques the fact that women kind of had to dress themselves. Even from then, they were already trying to put on this image of them, so this impossible image to be loved. And in her case, actually, he was painting these women for the king to choose one from his paintings.
Yeah.
And apparently his painting was too good.
Apparently so.
So then we move on to her song, and her song, she is based. Who do you think she was based on?
Nicki Minaj.
Nicki Minaj.
Because I've heard enough of Nicki Minaj. Apparently Nicki Minaj is a secondary influence, though.
Yeah. So
Rihanna was the primary, but obviously
Rihanna. Oh, I didn't even find Rihanna as an influence for her.
Oh, hang on, sorry, I'm misreading. No. Yeah. I watched an interview with the writers. Nicki, it was Rihanna. No, Nicki Minaj I've written first. Maybe it was Nicki Minaj primarily.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I have Nicki Minaj as
anyways,
first
both
influence.
of them, and Nicki Minaj was I clearly identified.
Yeah, so we have Iggy Azalea and Charlie XCX as well. The song "Fancy" by them, and I listened to that song, and it's actually that. Oh my god, I can see why it was inspired by that song, but also Lord's Royals, because her song is basically.
Oh yeah.
So her song is very much like she almost got an annulment, right? They were divorced very short after they got married because Henry was not happy about the way she looked, and she got quite a lot out of that. One of the things being Richmond Palace, which then later on became Queen Elizabeth I's main residence. It doesn't exist anymore, because if it did, I would go there and I would sing "Get Down" in its grounds, and it would be beautiful, but it doesn't, so I can't.
So Anna Cleves actually falls in the same category as Jane Seymour insofar as she had a good life.
But she realizes that, and she steps out.
Also,
of the
her song doesn't wreck the mood.
So, definitely.
So I don't have an issue with her as a result.
She is the queen. She's the queen of the castle, and I love how she makes so many jokes about so many of her a lot of her situation, and sort of like about her situation. And her song is very much like if you listen to rap, and there's a lot of this in rap. And I'm sorry if this is not the case for most of it, but I definitely have listened to this of like rappers talking about how rich they are.
Oh yeah, that's basically what rap.
Yes.
Well, rappers always talk about their. Well, sorry, that's it. Always. Rappers seem to always talk about themselves personally, like their personal lives. Like Eminem's constantly just narrating about his life.
And so that's what Anna Cleves does. She talks about her furs, her horses, her carriages, her gold chains, her all the riches that she has. But honestly, I think it's such a great song. It's my favorite number in the show, and it's worth going just for that song, in my opinion. It's just great. I love it. So next up is Catherine Howard, Kay Howard, as she is now going to be known. And who do you think she was inspired by?
Well, so I'm not actually sure if I've got Britney Spears written down in mind, but I actually don't know if I genuinely came up with that myself or not.
Okay.
I would put a question mark over because I have what I thought and then what the writers thought, but I had edited what I thought before making the separate list.
Right.
So there is some discrepancy. So I'm not convinced I actually thought this myself.
Okay, so yes.
But I might have done.
Britney, #free Britney.
I'm trying to remember the song.
Britney is there, and Ariana Grande as well. And this song, and if you listen to it, you can hear the vocal fry in the song. It's very Britney.
Oh, maybe I did think of it.
Yeah,
myself.
I think you might have done, and it's a lot about like young girl sexualization, and she was kind of taken advantage of.
Oops, I did it again, or hit me baby one more time.
Yeah,
right? That's what I'm starting to think.
There's a lot of that in the song, and there's and it's kind of it's an upbeat song with a sad message, because I think she kind of realizes towards the end of the song that she's being taken advantage of by all the men in her life, even the guy she thought was just a platonic friend. Towards the end. And it's very kind of poignant the moment when she sings it, and then all the other queens come to her and kind of start touching her inappropriately as she would have felt touched by all these men. And she even sings that playtime's over, so she now realizes that what she thought was kind of good-natured fun is not just that. They are taking advantage of who she is and of her. And there's a lot of controversy over this particular queen. She was also beheaded, like Anne Boleyn. She was also beheaded.
But she doesn't keep going on about it.
She doesn't know. She should though, I think. But apparently Henry VIII did not like, and this is hilarious in my opinion, considering he's Henry VIII and he married 6 times. He did not like used women. So women who had other previous relationships.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was discovered about her, and that's why one of the reasons why he beheads her, accuses her of having a relationship with this guy who was her friend. And kind of goes downhill from there, and she does not survive that, unfortunately for her. But it is a good song, and it's very Britney, so if you like Britney, you'll like that. And finally, we have Catherine Parr, which I feel is often forgotten, even by me, because she survives Henry VIII. And her song is also not very much about her relationship with Henry. It's more about this man who she loves and can't marry.
Yeah, so just before she sings, there's the kind of the reveal that that she kind of says, "Oh, this is stupid. We're arguing over who suffered the most at the hands of this man." And then this is kind of basically a soft reveal, essentially, of the fact that they knew that they knew that, and that the whole thing's being planned in order for her for Catherine Parr then to say that.
Yes. Oh yeah. By the way, and she's inspired mostly by Alicia Keys.
Yeah, I know.
It's quite R&B.
I don't know who Alicia Keys is, so I had no idea.
The actress also had like a great voice. It's a fun song as well. I don't listen to it as much because I think it's like more of a ballad rather than a pop, big pop number, but it is a good song too. And she's the one, as Chris said, she's the one that kind of starts the change in the show, like what their intent is now different from her song onwards. I think this is just fun. I'm going to mention this is a historic fun fact. She marries the guy in the song after Henry dies, 6 months after he dies, which causes a scandal because not enough time. And this is like a crossover, his name was Thomas, and he was Jane Seymour's brother. Oh my god.
Wow.
Because there weren't enough people in England back then. There aren't.
No.
So
there were only 18 people who
especially in court,
who Henry was ruling over.
Exactly.
Cool.
And I think,
that's a rundown of the
entire
show,
basically. And then they sing about being ex-wives now, not to be known as just his wives, as being known beyond themselves. Yeah. And I think overall, Six is a very upbeat show. It's just a lot of fun. It's just a fun night out. The fact that it's bite-sized, and I say it's not really bite-sized, it's an hour and 15. It's a good length show, but it feels very much like you're going there and then you can go for dinner or drinks. It feels like it's definitely a feel-good show, and I will definitely be going back to it. I've been trying Rush tickets ever since and I haven't got them yet, but
not yet. You will.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
And but my liking it was actually quite obvious, even though I didn't realize that at the start. But I want to know how you felt about it, Chris.
So this is interesting because we've had a lot more time to digest this show than any other show we've reviewed so far. So I have taken that time to kind of digest my opinion on it. And ultimately, I did enjoy it. I enjoyed my time watching it. And I agree with you. It's a kind of it is a feel good show. But that doesn't let it escape from my critical eye. Having said that, so the first thing I want to mention is Six is often compared to Hamilton.
Why?
Because
I was just gonna leave it at that. Why?
Because people think it has contemporary music and history as a theme, it's the same. But this isn't even history, as I said. It's not. It's like an alt reality. It's like purgatory, as I said. It's not actually history. However, it is like Hamilton in one big way that no one ever mentions, that I haven't noticed, and that is the fact that it is so just to be clear, it is not like Hamilton because it uses contemporary music to deal with history, because it doesn't deal with history. And even if it was, that wouldn't make it like Hamilton. Stop comparing it to Hamilton. Apart from this way, it's about legacy and how you're remembered.
Yeah,
both Hamilton and Six are about having your story told.
Yeah, taking charge of your story.
Yeah, which is what Eliza does, particularly at the end of Hamilton.
Yeah, but I think also it is like Hamilton insofar, and this is not Hamilton is not the only show it's like in that sense, but it is like Hamilton insofar as it is a gateway show. A lot of people are getting to the theatre and getting to musicals through Six.
Yeah, although Hamilton's a gateway show.
It is
not quite as much as Six is. I think Six is actually more of a gateway show because Hamilton is very long. And whilst it has a lot of hip hop and rap, it does also have some straight up musical ballads.
It does, yeah. Sure. But I think what I mean to say is that the Hamilton effect of bringing people to the theatre, people who wouldn't usually go to see shows, and didn't think they liked shows. So I think Hamilton started a new. This is something that we can always discuss at some other time. But I think Hamilton started like a kind of modern or contemporary theatre kind of revolution almost in musical theatre.
I think that's fair.
It has changed the way we go to shows and the way we consume shows, because now and don't get me wrong, I know there were people trying to get bootlegs of shows they couldn't get to 10 years ago. I know that's the case, but I think Hamilton propelled that to such an extent.
I agree Hamilton's a gateway show, but I think Six is more of one, and here's my evidence.
I think Six is more of one on paper.
I think it's more of a full stop. I think we have a friend who hates musicals, right? I think you'd have more luck taking her to Six than Hamilton, because Six is an hour and a quarter girl power anthem, and she'd like that.
But I think in practice, Hamilton has this far brought more new people to the theatre.
It's been running longer.
Yes, but not much longer.
It's quite a lot longer.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm thinking about London. That's very true.
You're thinking about London,
yes.
and also you're
yes,
not, and also the Fringe doesn't count.
That's true. No, and I was thinking about London. It's been running for a lot longer in the US. So yes, I think. And
as I said, if we take our example of our friend, you'd have better luck taking.
Yeah, no,
Six.
I think Six definitely has the potential to bring more people to the theatre than Hamilton does,
yeah.
and it's more easy. It's easier to convince someone to go see Six, I think, if they don't like musical theatre, than to go see Hamilton, especially because you can know
it's shorter.
Because you can say to them, it's only an hour and 15.
It's like a pop concert.
Yeah.
But yeah, so on to the music. I think the music, as I said, it's very catchy, kind of by the numbers pop music. Therefore, it's very easy to listen to, very easy to remember, and even sing afterwards. Each song kind of has this really clear hook that I'm like, that's the thing you put in to make this catchy. You know, for in a very famous example of a hook, so to speak, would be "We'll Rock You," bum bum bum, right? Which means which I kind of don't. It's almost like I said, I kind of called it writing music by numbers, almost like painting by numbers, which I'm not a huge fan of. It means the music's unlikely to actually to move you. You'll remember it, but it's unlikely to move you. So I mean, like, if you want to keep the Hamilton comparison going, Hamilton does use some hooks, but never clearly nowhere near as clearly identifiable as in Six, and as a result, it's much more unconventional in terms of its musical composition, and that's why it has the power to move you. Six is kind of very basic in many ways in its music composition, and it is their first show, and I think it shows that it's their first show. Because here's the other thing: I think that Lin-Manuel Miranda's first show, In the Heights, which he wrote in university, I think it shows that was his first show. I really didn't like it, but I'm a huge fan of his later work, and I think Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss?
Yes, that's right.
Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss. I think they're definitely the ones to watch out for. But I think even they, this is a prediction. I think even they in 10 years' time will look back at Six as kind of their first show, which kind of on reflection wasn't great in terms of music
Sure.
composition. I think their next show is going to be a lot better. So it's almost like they kind of followed a recipe for pop songs. It's a bit like, do you remember Falling Slowly when it won the Oscar? Some people were saying it kind of followed a formula, which I wasn't aware of, and I don't really understand what they mean in that situation, in that particular instance. But that's how I feel about this. I feel like they kind of literally followed a recipe book to write a hit pop song.
But I think most of the best pop songs are very formulaic.
Yeah, you're quite right, and that's one of the reasons I don't like modern pop music. It's too I can't say the word now.
Formulaic.
Formulaic. It adheres too much to a formula, and that's why they're good songs, but they lack soul.
But they're fun songs,
yeah.
And I think
but they lack soul.
Well,
they lack soul, identity, and they're not going to move you as a result.
I don't know if they like. Some of them definitely do lack identity. I get that, and I won't disagree with you there. But I do think that a lot of it is added by. So the songs on their own, and not very much, but they need the interpreter. They need the singer. They need the person to be there and to actually do a lot of the work and to kind of carry it a lot.
What do you mean?
To
give
it
story context.
Just to give it some soul.
The performance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think there's very little you can do with them because they're too formulaic. They adhere too much to formula. I can't say that word. So that's why. So I'm not a huge fan of that type of music. I think the music is all apart from the power ballad. I think all the songs are good. They're good. They're well written, formulaic, whatever. They're well written.
Formulatic.
They're well written pop songs that adhere to their given formula. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't. It's like it's like being given a really nice ham and cheese sandwich. It's like, yeah, that's really nice, but there's a limit to how good a ham and cheese sandwich can be because it is a ham and cheese sandwich. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, and some people don't like ham.
Yeah.
No, I know, but that's the point. I think if you really love it, if you really love something that is simple, you find this is great. But for some people, some people do need a bit more.
And not just as simple as there's 100 other songs like that. That's the problem.
Sure, I think that yes, I don't disagree with you, and I do think it's simple, but I do think I think it's good. Also because of that,
because it makes it more gateway-y.
Yes, and yeah. I mean, look, I've been listening to in the shower every day, so
yeah, I've been hearing it. Regarding, so what do you think the point of the show is? Do you think it is kind of like because I saw it definitely has a feminist following.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it actually is like trying to be a feminist anthem, or do you think it's very deliberately having these feminist themes, or do you think it's just an effect of what it's done?
I think it is trying.
I think it is trying, and I think it does it really well. So for a lot of the songs, I think it does it really well in the songs. I know you have an issue with the final message. So I agree that it's trying, and that's why I have a problem with the fact that the feminist message completely misses the mark. So they say that the message they say at the end is that they kind of realise that Henry VIII is only remembered because he had 6 wives. So they basically are the reason he's remembered, and that's just a foolish thing to say, because ultimately he would be remembered anyway. He was a king of England. I can't name, because they say who was Henry VII's wife, and no one can name it. Indeed, I can't. Who was Henry VI's wife? No one can name them. Indeed, nor can I. But I can name Henry VI, and I can name Henry VII. I can even tell you that Henry VII's moniker was the Merchant King, because I learned it in school. And I can indeed, and actually, even more funnily, I happen to be one of those people who never could remember the 6 wives. I could only remember Anne Boleyn and Anne of Cleves if you add a push. I can never remember the others.
Weird ones to choose, just because they're Anne.
Maybe
most of them have the same name, Chris.
That's true, so it's just not true that he's remembered because of them. And actually, the reverse is true. They're only remembered because of him. So they are defined by the man insofar as they're remembered in history solely because of the man that they married. And I'm not saying that's a problem or anything. I guess it's sad in a way, but it's just that the feminist message at the end is a lie, and they shouldn't have said it because in the moment I was like, oh yeah, everyone in the audience kind of like, yeah, that's a really good point, and I was with them. And then the show ended, and I went, hang on a minute, that doesn't make any sense.
But I do think that he is. Yeah,
he's more remembered.
He is more remembered, and he is such a popular figure who has transcended the history books into popular culture.
Agreed.
So much because and I mean, look, there's two main reasons. The reason is the fact that he's separated from Rome, right? And also,
which is because of one of the wives, in fairness,
and because of all the wives, yes. So I think the point being that I maybe that's the point the show should have made, that he is more remembered that they needed, so that he needs them as much as they as much as that would have been better, because I know you're saying that he's more remembered because of them. They would have been otherwise, right? But if he'd never married any of them, we'd still know who he is. He'd still be in our history books, and none of them would be. No, that's the point. Yes, that's very true. If you separate them, he loses much of his fame. They lose all of their fame. Sure. So I agree with you that maybe the message should just be a little tweaked. Yeah, it's just a really catastrophic failure of writing. I couldn't believe it when I realized it, and that's why I think the feminist message is intentional, because they literally stand up on a soapbox and make it. It's the kind of, I remember I was praising Hairspray for its dealing with segregation, and one of the reasons I really liked it is because they never get on a soapbox and just say it at the audience, which they do. And not only do they do it, they do it and make a bad point. But they do it, and I think maybe that's unfortunate because they only do it at the end. Because I do think that the other songs do a better job at being feminist anthems, if you will. Exactly, yeah. Than the final message. I think the other songs are feminist without shouting through the rooftops that they are feminist. But also, they're not just categorically wrong in what they say. Which this message is. Yeah, no. So I think the message is much like the message is in the other songs much more than it is in the final message of the show. Yeah, but I do feel that the feminist
message of the show is dramatically undercut and kind of brought down a great deal by this really foolish thing that is said at the end of the show.
So, despite all that, and despite what you feel about the final message,
yeah, the rest of the show works well as a feminist anthem, so to speak.
Yeah, and would you recommend it?
Yes. No. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm on the fence.
It depends on the person.
It depends on the person.
Sure. Oh, your mom says she wants to see it.
I think it lacks.
For example,
it lacks purpose a little bit, and it kind of it doesn't fail to be a strong piece of feminist theatre, but I really think that the way it undercuts itself at the end does a lot more damage than you think it does. I don't expect anything that's just because it has women in it to be a great piece of feminist theatre, and I don't think necessarily. No, indeed, absolutely not. It's not good. It's not good, but it's not good just because it's all women. It's good for other reasons, but then it kind of damages its kind of cred and rep at the end by being a bit daft. Would I recommend it? So you use the term gateway show at the start, and I think that's a good summary. I think I would recommend it as a gateway show. And I guess then I'd also recommend it to people like us who love going to see new theatre and experimenting with the kind, because it's not, I wouldn't call it experimental theatre, but it's different. It definitely tries some new things, and so I get something out of seeing a show like this, even if I don't love it, right? Just because it's something different. And so I guess the people I wouldn't recommend it to are the people who are in the middle, the people who kind of see, I don't know, maybe 10 shows a year. Or even 20 shows a year, you know. I don't think I'd recommend it to those people who like going to theatre, you know, they go a fair amount, but they're not obsessed like we are, and they're not, you know, novices like someone who's going to go to a gateway show are, because you've got a lot better, if you're one of those people, if you're seeing 10 shows a year, let's say, you've got much better things to go and see every year.
I also think that it depends on what you're looking for. And I think we talked about this when we discussed the Beckett play last episode. It does depend what you're looking for when you go to a show, and unlike the Beckett play, this one you do go to be entertained.
Yeah, but I think there's better shows to be entertained by. That's the point. And like I said, the reason you'd go as a gateway person, I think, someone hasn't gone to experience shows, I'd recommend to them as a gateway show because they'll find it easier to get into than something like maybe, I don't know, Phantom of the Opera. But if you're someone who goes if you're someone who's familiar with theatre but just haven't seen and don't need the gateway, then you'll enjoy Phantom more than this, for example. Obviously there's a lot more to that, Phantom's operatic, etc. But yeah, I don't know, it's very by the numbers pop music. So if you don't like pop music, then you might not like this. You definitely won't like this.
Well, you say that because I don't particularly like rap, and I like Hamilton. So it's not...
Hamilton's not rap though.
No, I know.
People always say Hamilton's rap. It's hip hop, which has rap elements.
Yes, I know, but
there's only like 2 raps in Hamilton.
Yeah,
really.
What I mean to say is that I don't necessarily agree that if you don't like this type of music, don't go see it, because there are musicals that I don't particularly like the type of music in theory, but I will enjoy the musical.
But Hamilton has...
No, not Hamilton necessarily.
That's the example you gave, so that's the example I'm going to break down. Hamilton has way more going on in its music and in the show as a whole than the fact that it's hip-hop / rap.
I agree.
Whereas this is basically just pop music. That's just it's a concert. You use the term yourself.
Yeah.
It's a concert. That's what it is. If you don't enjoy pop concerts, you will not enjoy this. It has very little else going on.
I think it's pretty funny. There's also that going on for it. I think the songs are funny. I think the in between the songs is funny.
There are some moments of humor.
I saw a lot of adult men laughing out loud.
There are some moments of humor, but not that many. And there's much funnier things to see.
Sure, if you want to see a comedy, sure.
Yeah, well, you were recommending going to see it. But what you were saying we were saying one of the things that's going on is comedy, and it's sure, but it's like
okay, it's an unusual combination of pop and comedy.
Sure. I'd recommend Book of Mormon to someone who wants to see good music and comedy. Not 6. Like, the comic aspect is not something that would even come into my mind as recommending
I know,
it.
I disagree. I think it's pretty funny, and I think it's...
I mean, it's an hour and a quarter long, and about an hour of that is singing.
And a lot of the songs are funny.
Oh, you think the songs are funny?
I think there's funny bits in the songs.
Okay,
no, it's not funny like Turn It Off, but it is funny.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. I guess.
would you call Hamilton's songs funny? Because it has some funny moments in the songs, and I wouldn't call it funny.
No, I think not all the songs. Jane Seymour's song doesn't have any funny moments, but most of the songs have funny moments in
No,
Six.
the more I think about it, her song really is a drag.
She's bringing the whole thing down.
She does.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. I think it's just fun night out, and I will definitely be going back to it. It's a great show to go with your friends, I think.
We'll never know exactly how much we enjoyed it because we don't do star ratings.
Yes, and
But if we did, what would you give it?
I would give it 5 stars.
Would you really?
I would, yeah.
You're giving everything 5 stars lately.
I am, but it's not usual. You see, I think that you can have different types of 5 stars, or maybe 4.5. Then maybe I'll take half a star off because of James Seymour.
You can have, this is something I've heard you say before. You can have different reasons for giving something 5 stars, but you can't have different types of 5 stars. No, 5 stars means it was brilliant.
Yeah,
it can be brilliant in different shows. It can be brilliant in different ways.
Yes,
but you can't. But I don't. That's not the same as having different types of 5 stars.
I think that's the same thing to me.
No, 5 stars is brilliant. It means it's brilliant.
Sure,
like,
I think it's brilliant. But I think it's 4.5. I think the message. No, I joked it was Jane Seymour's song, not Jane Seymour's song. Is the thing that's taking half a star off. I think it's the. I think it is. There is a misuse of the message. I think it could have been.
All the negative things I said, Deborah agrees with on a minor level, and that takes a star off.
That's it.
It doesn't bother her as much as me.
No, it doesn't. Really
I actually, this is an example of the digestion, and this might be an argument to return to some of our reviews at some point. We always have a section at some point where we kind of look back at our reviews and kind of reassess. I would have given it 4 stars if we'd done the review in the days after, but it's dropped to 3 in my digestion.
4.5 and 3 then if we did star reviews, but we don't.
But we don't. So, but the thing is as well, and I actually think this is a point that actually we haven't mentioned and no one seems to mention, and it is worth mentioning. And the fact that it's half the length of most shows, but the tickets are full priced.
Yeah, well, I
think that takes a star off right there.
Well, that's a good point, but that's not the fault of the actual artistic department, is it? Or
We're reviewing the whole thing.
That's very true. That is very true. We actually, and this is being fair, and I'm being honest here, having given it 4.5 stars, if we did star reviews, but we don't. I avoided, but yeah, I hadn't gone to 6 yet because the tickets were so expensive.
Yeah.
And I only got there. We only saw it because we got rush tickets, which meant paying a decent amount still for good seats that would have cost twice as much normally. I would not pay the full price.
Absolutely not.
Just because I think that look, and this is something that I think is food for thought and for discussion. And we should definitely talk about it. I think some shows are so expensive, and they shouldn't be so expensive. They're literally pricing people out of the theater. So actually, you're correct insofar as it is a gateway show, but it's too expensive.
Yeah.
So it kind of prices out the people they want to come in to see it, which is a problem.
Exactly.
And this is us getting a bit political, but there you go.
Oh, we never actually mentioned the set, so I'm briefly going to touch the fact that the set's really good. It's an all-female band, by the way, as well.
Yes.
Four-piece band. The set has a lot of neon lights and stuff. It is the set of a pop concert. And nothing more and nothing less, but it works perfectly.
It does work perfectly. So I think that's it, isn't it? I think we've rambled on for far too long. Go see 6 if you want a bit of fun, but if you don't enjoy pop music, maybe avoid it.
Yeah, you're probably not listening to this podcast if you're only very vaguely interested in theatre. But if you are only very vaguely interested in theatre, and you want to kind of an easy entry point, go check this out. If you like pop music, go check it out. If you like feminist theatre, go check this out.
And we'll be keeping our eyes out for Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss, because they'll probably be doing great stuff in theatre.
Yes, exactly. I'll make it clear that even though I think there's some problems in their composition, I think they themselves are very talented, and I think and I will go to the next show. I think this is an incredible piece of work that these guys just came up with in college. Do you know what I mean? Sorry,
I'm just laughing because you just had the opportunity to experience a Chris review where he trashes it and then is like, "This is incredible."
Yeah, because I think we're reviewing it. I think it's important to say what we think is wrong with it. I can still enjoy it and then critique it.
Yeah.
This is Deborah. Deborah always is amused by the fact that I will watch a movie and criticize every aspect of it throughout the movie and then declare that I liked it at the end.
Yep. It's infuriating and also funny.
I can't talk during a show.
That's very true.
Like I can during a movie at home, so I have to do it all at the end. So it just comes out this barrage of criticism followed by that was quite good. No, but look, it was great. They clearly can they look. Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss have a masterpiece in them.
Yes, a bit like Lin-Manuel had Hamilton.
But 6 isn't it.
Oh, exciting! What are they going to write about next? Is it going to be about, I don't know, the Georges? I don't know.
The Madness of King George musical. That would be good.
That's what I want to watch.
But yeah, let us guys know what you think of 6. I know it's a very, very popular show, so I apologise if I didn't enjoy it as much as you did. Feel free to go to restricted.view on Instagram
and tell Chris is wrong
and tell me why I'm wrong. So our tip this week is to do with the Globe Theatre, which you may remember from your time living in the 16th century?
16th century.
Well, no, actually, probably late 16th, early 17th century.
Yes.
You may remember that it burned down, I think, didn't it?
It did.
But they rebuilt it.
They rebuilt it in 1997.
So yes,
more or less where it would have been.
So this is the theatre that Shakespeare used maybe 2 or 3 times, but historians will tell you he used constant. But the tour guys will tell you he used constantly. He actually put the vast majority of his shows on Blackfriars.
And the Rose now as well.
Oh, possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Anyway, he didn't use the Globe that much, but he did invest in it, I think.
He did.
So maybe that's why it became so synonymous.
Yeah, so the Globe Theatre is, if you've been to London, you have seen it. It's a reconstruction of Shakespeare's Globe.
And it looks really cool.
It is really cool, and it's a cool theatre, and I do recommend the guided tour. The guided tour is a lot of fun in that theatre. I've done it. I did it many years ago, and I would do it again now because it's just good fun. They do tell you a lot about the history of the theatre.
I've done it. I do.
Yeah, it's a good day out in London.
Oh, we should do that at some point soon.
We can film it and put it on Instagram.
Yeah, we can definitely. Let us know if you'd like to see that.
Yes. So our kind of tip, we were talking about it. Chris has only been there once.
I've only been there once.
I've been there a few times. I've had the Yardling experience, which is, if you don't know, the people who pay very, very cheap to go and watch a Shakespeare play, which, bear in mind, 3 to 3.5 hours long, standing in the elements, under the elements, sun, rain, snow, come what may. It's all coming. It's all there, and you'll have to deal with it. It is very cheap. In fact, it's only £5, I believe, to be a Yardling.
There's a reason for it, though.
Oh, yes, there is. So I think a consensus that we got to is that the Shakespeare's Globe doesn't really do comfortable seats.
Nope, not at all.
As a Yardling, my main tip to you, if you really want to see that production, they only have tickets for the yard, because that's the thing as well. You can usually get last minute tickets to stand.
Or you're a broke student. I know my sister went there a few times as a Yardling because she was a broke student and it was a £5.
And look, it can be wonderful and it's a fun experience to have, and at least people will not be eating and drinking like they used to in Shakespeare's time and chatting during the production, mostly anyway.
If you think you're allowed to do that, check out our episode with the theatre etiquette section.
But my tip to you is get there early.
How early? Very early.
Quite early. Get there before the performance, definitely.
Before the performance?
No, it's just like at least half an hour, I'd say, before the performance, but maybe
that's
more.
What I was thinking, half an hour at least.
Because if you are one of the first people to get in, you can use the comfort of the stage to lean on, because the stage is kind of like what about shoulder height.
You'll also have a better view as well.
Yeah, so the
especially
stage
if you're not that tall.
So you can get to the stage and you can use the stage to lean on, because people do put their arms and their elbows on stage, and it doesn't really seem to be a problem. I think it's kind of accepted that that's what people do.
Expected.
But my personal favorite in that situation is to actually get there and have your back to the seats.
To the very back of the yard.
To the very back of the yard,
very
yes.
back of the standing area.
Because, first of all, I don't believe you... you have to be really, really tall to actually be in the way of people who are sitting behind you. Mm-hmm. And you can get some back support. But also, during the interval, you can sit on the floor and have some back support. Also important. So those are kind of the prime spots when you are a Yardling.
But if you can afford not to, I would recommend not doing that at all and getting yourself a seat.
Your feet will be crushed at the end of the day.
So we sat in the ground. There's 3 tiers. There's the Yardling, and there's I don't know if they call. It's not called stalls. Obviously, there's the ground level seats. There's first level seats and second level seats. Yeah. We sat in the ground level seats on the side. And my neck was in agony and my back was in agony.
Yeah, so there's no back support at all.
No, they're just benches with no back support whatsoever. with the exception of the back row.
Yeah, tickets in the back row.
So the ground level and the first level, the back row have some sort of support. They've got wood, they've got wood behind them. So if you're worried, I've got a bit of a bad back, and it was tough.
It was hard, yeah.
It was really tough. The show also wasn't very good, which didn't help. But yeah, so I really would recommend getting yourself the back row of those sections. The top row. The second level, rather, I should say, only has 2 rows, the back of which does indeed have a back and also has a railing in front to lean on. So they're obviously the worst seats in some ways because you're highest up and furthest back.
But it's not that high compared to some theatres.
It's fine. In fact, at the Globe, I'd be more concerned about being far on the edges than being higher up.
Yeah.
Be central and high up is better, I think, than low and edge. Or low inside, and the front row of the second level also has a railing, but no back.
Yeah.
So I think that, in my opinion, the best seats for comfort, definitely is the second row, which is the back row of the second level, the top level, and then go central, and then you even have a good view.
Yeah.
You have a great view, and you're going to be comfortable, and everyone else is going to be in pain.
the true Elizabethan experience.
Indeed.
But yeah, so I think that's it about the Globe. Looking forward to now going on the tour. I didn't realize you wanted to do that.
I didn't realize I wanted to either, but I might as well. But yeah, just be aware, guys. The Globe is not comfortable. It is not comfortable. But
especially because the plays put there are usually very, very long as well.
Yeah.
So I think it enhances the discomfort.
Yeah, but if you're going to go, get a seat if you can, and get a back row seat, and then you'll have you'll probably be able to survive the 3 hours then.
And finally, we are getting to our little discussion this week. So our Far Too Many Notes section is going to be all about reading plays. And this is controversial, and Chris has a lot of thoughts. Who would have thought?
I don't have a lot of thoughts. I've my notes consist of one word.
Go on then.
Don't.
Okay, that's it for today. No, I'm joking.
I have nothing else to say.
Oh, come on.
Don't read plays. They're not designed to be read.
I don't know how to. So hang on. Let's start from the beginning. Reading plays is often controversial, and it can be a problem because
it's only controversial with me, isn't it?
No, because Ian McKellen has talked about this.
He has talked about it.
So it is clearly a topic of conversation. It is. I understand, as someone who has not been trained to read plays, how difficult it can be, and I have actually seen some of the damage only reading the script can do to a play.
Yeah.
As well, having had to defend the actual production rather than and telling people this is not just about the words on paper. There's a lot more to it, and you don't really understand the stage directions, and sometimes different directors will make different choices. So there's a lot going on, and yes, I can totally understand that. However, and I think this is the counterpoint to the don't argument, which is some people do not have the opportunity to go to shows and to go to plays and to see those plays put on, and sometimes they want to have a bit of that experience. They want to look into those to those works as much as they can. I have done that, like in Brazil. Some of those plays are not accessible to us, so we have read. In a university, I have read plays, and just for leisure too. I admit that it's not the same experience, obviously not, because and then this is the question I always pose to people who disagree that you shouldn't read plays, saying you wouldn't read a film script.
No, indeed, and here's the other thing. So reading the script of a play is one of many tools and resources that go into making the play. And that same person who can't see the play but wants to have an experience of it, would they accept the offer of looking at the props table? No,
but it's not.
They've arbitrarily decided that reading the play gives them 90% of the experience. I would say it gives them maybe 25 to 30%.
I was going to say 30%. I think it definitely gives you a good chunk of it is the play.
That's appallingly small chunk of it.
The 1/3 of it. I think it's a good chunk of it.
Well, I said 25 to 30.
Yes, I think...
And 33 would be a third.
Okay. I think, well, so 35% of it.
Oh my god, it's more than a third.
Yeah, so I do think that there's the if you can't, what do you suggest then that they do? That you just don't experience it ever? And that makes that's elitist in so many ways. I can't even begin to describe it because you can't. So you. I don't think
it's elitist because that's because what it would. I mean, is it? Would it be? I don't.
You see, because music doesn't have the same impact because you can listen because it's so widespread and you can listen to music and you can find music online and you can easily consume works of art by Beethoven and whoever you want to, if you're not just going to read.
It's mainly about if you're going to see the show one day, right? If you absolutely know, if you can see the future and you know you'll never ever ever see the show, then it doesn't matter if you read it. Agreed. But the problem is you will never be able to see it for the first time properly ever if you've read it. That's the problem. You're robbing yourself of a true first experience.
Sure, but some people will never ever be able to see the show.
Yeah, but the thing is, the sort of person who wants to read a script, I'd be very surprised they don't want to see it. So sure. I can't think of a scenario where someone's like, I really want to see this play, but I know I will never see it ever.
Yes, I know a lot of people who really want to see plays. They will never see it because they'll never be able to.
Why can't they go one day if they want to see it enough?
Because a lot of it will mean traveling abroad.
But one day they don't. In 10 years' time, they might be rich.
Yes, they might be, but they could also be dead.
Right, but they won't care. They'll be dead. So that's not a counter argument. They won't. Once they're dead, it doesn't matter if they read the play or not, or saw the play or not. But as long as they're alive, they could still see the play for the first time. So I just can't think of a scenario where you want to see it, but know for a fact you'll never will. Therefore, I can't ever think of a situation where it makes sense to read the script. I mean, we read scripts in university, and I think that's incredibly daft because we weren't examining the script, we were examining the show, and that's I mean.
Yes, I understand that that's a problem, and that has happened. I have done that too with plays at university because literature students read plays.
Yeah, which is insane in and of itself. Why are you reading plays as literature students?
No, well, because it's also literature. It's also literary in a way. But I do agree that you're not actually most of the time you're not actually analysing the script. You're analysing.
If you're analysing the script, you're absolutely fine. It's still an odd choice for a literary student, I think. It's more appropriate for a drama student. But drama students also don't just analyse a script. They're analysing the whole thing.
Yes, you do analyse motivation and character and all sorts of things as a literature student. Which is... Yeah,
which you can't do because you haven't got the... Cause
you haven't got the full thing, I agree.
That's all worked out with the director.
Yes, and different actors bring different things to characters and,
Absolutely.
build the characters differently. So, yeah,
It's a tool. It's a tool to make the show. Same as the actors are a tool, and the director is a tool, and the set's a tool. And looking at one tool and expecting to get that, if you can't look at a hammer and expect to see a fence.
But would you be okay with it then if you weren't expecting to have the full experience? If you were fully aware that you're not getting the full experience?
I think I just said that. That it's fine if you're analysing the script only.
Sure.
But that's academic. I mean, there is no joy to be found, in my opinion, in reading a script. And as simply as a script, no joy other than academic joy. If you happen to find, if you're someone who takes joy in academia, that's fine. But there's no you're not getting read a book. Why are you reading a play? I mean, you mentioned Ian McKellen. Ian McKellen, the phrase he used wasn't this that he doesn't know how to read music, so he doesn't. And most people don't know how to read a script.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I was trying to think of an exception because I haven't actually read a lot of modern and contemporary plays. I mostly read Shakespeare, and I almost think that Shakespeare is in a different category.
But the thing is, Shakespeare is one of the easiest ones to go see, and therefore makes the least sense to actually read. If you're gonna use the argument that you're not going to have the opportunity to see a show, I mean, everyone has an opportunity to see a Shakespeare at some point in their life.
Okay, I think I meant more in the sense that it's in a different category because in my experience, and this is just me personally, I have found it easier to enjoy a Shakespeare play when I had read the script beforehand.
Yeah, because they make no sense. But that's more of a failure.
They make no sense because the language is very difficult.
Yeah,
they make sense.
That's more of a failure of the of Shakespeare himself.
One day, Chris will just rant about Shakespeare.
I don't like Shakespeare. And I think the fact that you need to read his stuff before you watch it is not doesn't the fact that you need to read it to understand what's happening is not in favour of reading
No,
it.
but I don't.
That would actually be it for me. An arc would just ignore Shakespeare and
I
not go see
I
it.
don't think you need to read his stuff. I think I always attributed it to being my second language, and me
Nope.
not understanding it. Okay, but at the same time, I have seen Shakespeare's play that I have never read that I actually really enjoyed
But
and managed to appreciate.
The stuff he says doesn't even make sense. Like, he says, "Wherefore art thou Romeo?" Which means, why is it that you must be named Romeo? Right? Because it means we can't be together. But that's not true. The reason they can't be together is because of Montague. The surname is the thing that separates them, not the first name. That makes absolutely no sense. And I've never heard anyone call Shakespeare out on that. It makes no sense. It'd be like saying, I don't know, what's two nations that don't like each other? it'd be like an Englishman and an American who want to be together, but they hate each other. The Englishman hates Americans, and the American person hates the English. And they say, "Oh, wow, if only we could be together," but unfortunately, you're wearing a hat. It makes no sense. Like, so Shakespeare doesn't even make he doesn't even use the complicated language that's hard to understand. He doesn't even use it correctly.
Okay, I'm sure sometimes he does. Maybe not always. Definitely the Romeo thing is weird. I admit. But yeah, I don't know. I think in that particular sense, and Shakespeare's also kind of analysed in literature so much as a literary piece rather than a play, because it's almost transcended the theatre in many ways, and there's all this debate about Shakespeare on the page and Shakespeare on the stage, and they're different things. And I think there is an acknowledgement that they're different creatures. The script and the play.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Shakespeare is always the literature category of pointless.
Sorry?
Shakespeare is always in the literature category of Pointless, the game show.
Yes, it really is. So there you go. Because most people in the world will have had contact with Shakespeare on the page rather than the stage.
Yeah, because it's taught in school. Like, I mean, I did Macbeth in school, which I don't know why.
I don't know, because
in English class.
I think people go for Macbeth because it's there's a lot of death.
Shakespeare is just,
and they think all teenage boys will like it because it's death.
Shakespeare is just omnipresent in English literature, and I just think that's daft. He's a playwright.
Again,
I mean, he was also a poet, but the one thing he didn't do was write books.
Again, I think Shakespeare has transcended his category, and he is in popular culture, and he's a bit like Henry VIII. He's transcended history. But
you mentioned that you've seen you've had first term experience with having to defend the show because people basically didn't understand it, essentially, who had read the script. I'm assuming you're talking about Harry Potter and the Cursed Child?
Yes, I am indeed. So I was very lucky to get tickets to see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child during the previews. Mm-hmm. So it was just before I actually officially opened. And also before, so I actually didn't read the play, mm-hmm. as a lot of people did. And I didn't know anything about it, so I went in completely blind, and I had such a wonderful experience. It was really magical and just really good. As a Harry Potter fan, it's great. And then I ended up having countless debates with friends and acquaintances about trying to defend the play because they read the script and thought it was rubbish.
Yep.
And it's interesting because I think that, for example, is not just to blame on it's not just because they read a script, but it's also because their expectations are created, and in this particular script was sold as the 8th book.
The 8th story, not the 8th book.
Really?
They didn't say the 8th book, I don't think.
I believe there were marketing campaigns kind of saying it was the 8th book.
Possibly.
Or maybe it was misconstructed as the 8th book, but it was definitely 100% read as the 8th book. And then, I think that is a problem because it's definitely not a book. And I think it was interesting to see a lot of people who had never been in contact with scripts, reading scripts for the first time and realizing and not enjoying it because there was none of the world building. There was none of all the things that make Harry Potter magical. And Harry Potter is just an example, of other. I'm sure it has happened before, but it didn't have any of the things that people had fallen in love with the original material in the script, because obviously the script is just a shell.
Yeah, and I mean, the script was sitting on our bookshelf for quite a long time before I saw the show, and I deliberately didn't read it.
Yes, you avoided it, yeah.
I made a conscious choice not reading it, and I'm very glad I did.
I did read the script after seeing the show, but then
That's
then
fine.
it was a very different experience.
I personally still think that's a bit pointless, but it's not doing any damage.
It goes towards my Goodreads goal.
Oh, okay.
And it's a very easy read, so...
Is it? Because
Yeah.
I find reading scripts unbelievably boring.
Oh, but Cursed Child is pretty easy.
But I imagine it's still unbelievably boring.
I found Waiting for Godot very difficult, though.
Oh, God, yeah.
I really struggle with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of repeated dialogue, which, I mean, if you read... that's a good example. When you read Waiting for Godot from the page, it's just, shall we go? No. Okay. Vladimir takes his hat off. Vladimir puts his hat back on. What's to be done then? Nothing. Shall we go? Yes. They don't move. It's like, that's so boring to watch. It's sorry, not to watch. That's so boring to read. But when you see it on stage, I haven't actually seen Waiting for Godot, but the point I'm making is we've talked about absurdist theatre quite a lot last week. It can be art when it's put together with competence by actors and directors and set and costume. But it's so dull to read.
Yeah, I have to admit, and this is maybe me being a dum-dum, but when I was reading Waiting for Godot, I know the names of the characters were next to the thing they were going to say, but I didn't know who was saying it, because you're not reading the names of the characters all the time, and you're just reading these sentences.
Also, Vladimir and Estragon are going to completely be
they're the same. They're just one and the same
when you're reading it from the script.
100%. They're one and the same. I don't think it's taken away from, like, I haven't seen it yet, but I don't think it'll take away from it. This particular one.
Well, fortunately, I've forgotten most of Waiting for Godot.
Same. But I think in a play or a show that has more, I don't know, maybe more plot twists. So if I had read Harry Potter and the Cursed Child before seeing it, I would be really disappointed, I think.
Yeah.
Really disappointed with myself for having read it, because I would have missed out on that. Like, the twist wouldn't have been the gasping. The audience gasps loudly during that show. And I think I would have missed that.
There's another bit as well, which is I remember looking it up in the script on purpose to see what it says. There's a whole bit where the two of the main characters. I don't mention anything. Cursed Child is definitely, if you don't know anything about it, it's worth seeing without continuing to know anything about it. But two of the main characters whose relationship is central to the plot. There's a whole bit where they're not seeing, they're basically fighting, and they're not talking. And they keep passing each other in Hogwarts, and there's also the magical stairs that move around, and that's represented by these stairs being moved around by stagehands, or other actors actually, and they keep walking up and down the stairs and across the stairs and jumping off the stairs. Never quite meeting. Always seeing each other, stopping and glancing at each other. All this stuff. It's set to music, obviously. It's very
choreographed.
It's very
really
deliberately
beautifully.
choreographed. Not a dance or anything. I'm not saying it's. I wouldn't use it. But it's very deliberately set, all choreographed out. And they're not doing it to music, but it's accompanied by music. And it's a full, maybe, I don't know, maybe 45, 60 seconds, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit more,
yeah.
About a minute or so, let's say, of this, and it's a really good character moment. And on the script, it just says, character X and character Y pass each other on the stairs several times, looking at each other.
Yeah.
And like it's completely
empty.
It has absolutely no impact whatsoever.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is the thing that kind of brought this discussion to light, because I never considered this before. I had read plays occasionally, and then had seen, like, in mostly not read plays, mostly kind of thinking, oh, I might go see it. I never really considered it until I had countless debates with people about how, and just trying to convince people that the play was actually really competently put together.
Yeah, it's very, very. Oh, it's a great production.
Whereas maybe the script doesn't get that across, especially in this particular situation, in which all the people complaining obviously had read all the 7 books, so they were very familiar with the universe and the world and the characters. So to them, it just didn't work, because it wasn't. But they were expecting to read another novel, and it wasn't a novel.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of goes to show maybe that's kind of what I took from it. That is, if that happens to Harry Potter, it could just happen to any other thing, any other play. The actual script is not the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And the last thing I want to say is I have in the past directed shows, and you do not understand the amount of work the director has to do. And when you first read through a script that you're going to have to then put together on a stage, it's so overwhelming. Like, you can't understand, like, that script, and this is why I'm so adamant that reading the script is the same as looking at the props. It's like they're equally as helpful. When you're the director, the props and the script. The script, you read the script and you're like, oh, that's great. Now you know exactly what to put on stage. No, you've got none of your work is done yet. You haven't even started yet. You just don't. You don't. If you haven't done it, you don't get it. It's so hard. It's so hard to direct a show. And even when the actors come in, then depending on the actor, you first of all, you've done a lot of work before you even start working with the actors, and then you start working with the actors, and some of them will be super helpful and have lots to add, and will end up doing a lot of heavy lifting for you, and others won't. Then you'll have to work with a lot more. And sometimes an actor will work in such a way that you'll be like, oh, yes, I hadn't thought of that. That's brilliant. I'm just gonna just do that. And other times you'll agonize yourself, and with or without them, over something really small for ages and ages. It's really hard. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. And the script is 4% of the vision you're trying to get on that stage. It's one of the most useful tools to get what you want on the stage, but it's just, yeah. Look, the amount of work a director puts in, you don't realize. You don't get it.
That's fair enough.
It's so much.
I was actually now thinking about how to remedy the fact that a lot of people, and I have been one of those people, do not have the opportunity to go see shows as often as they would like. And that's why they resort to reading the script. And I was trying to think, how do you, because obviously theatre, even though it's very, like, it used to be, I guess, a very popular form of entertainment, it's now not. Now you do have to have the means and the opportunity, and you have to be at the right place, the right time to go and see certain productions. So I was trying to think of what could be done for it to be more far-reaching. And I got to the conclusion, well, one of the conclusions is that, well, it's very nice that a lot of films are being made inspired by musicals, and not only musicals but also plays. So Pinter plays have been made into films. Tennessee Williams plays have been made into films. So a lot of it has been made into film, often with the actual playwright helping with the film script. So it is a translation. Yes, it is a translation. But if I cannot read Finnish, so if I'm going to read a Finnish book, I need it to be translated into a language I can read, and it is a version of that. Yeah,
I definitely recommend seeing a film adaptation of a play rather than reading the script.
Yeah, so there's that, and there's also now more and more, and I think the past year has done that, has kind of made this movement towards that a lot of productions are filmed, and that footage is being released into the public. So that's very nice as well. I think that kind of gives people the opportunity. It's not the same experience as being in the theatre. No, unfortunately, it isn't. You can't really replicate that experience very easily. But it is as close to it as you will get.
Yeah.
And it's possibly better than reading the script on its own.
Yeah. If you're hoping to see the show one day, even if this is only a small chance, I would really recommend holding off on reading the script as long as you can.
Yeah, and look out for film versions of those plays and for televised versions of those plays that you are most looking forward to seeing instead of reading the script, perhaps. I think that's possibly the best advice that we have.
So that's all we have time for today. Another very long episode. They're getting a bit longer. Not much, but a little bit. Thank you very much for sticking with us through the full hour and 20 minutes or so. We really appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed. Hope the review of 6 was helpful. We hope you enjoyed the conversation about scripts.
Yes, do let us know how you feel about reading scripts, because obviously we know that sometimes it has to be done, and if you are a drama student or a literature student, you will have read them.
If you're a drama student, you're not doing it by choice.
Maybe you're a drama student by choice, though. So
yes. But not necessarily reading the scripts you want to read.
That's fair enough. So yeah, let us know what your experience has been. Because maybe you love it, and maybe you think that's a great thing. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Maybe there's a whole range of people out there who don't care about seeing shows but love reading scripts.
Maybe, yeah. Who knows?
But we'll be back next week with hopefully with a new review. As I say, we're hoping to see a couple of shows next weekend. So fingers crossed we'll be able to bring you a review for one of those next week.
And as always, with some interesting discussions and, our take on the current news.
Exactly. So we'll see you then next, guys. Stay safe in the meantime. Enjoy the remember, go to more shows.
Bye.